8221 represent linear functions with tables, verbal descriptions, symbols, equations, and graphs. Translate from one representation to another. You may be given a table, need to convert into an equation and things of that nature. Remember, the linear function is f of x, which represents y, and it basically means equals mx plus b. M represents the slope, a couple ways to find that slope, we've talked about them, and b represents y-intercept. It's where it crosses this vertical axis. So if this is your line, this is your y-intercept. Part A, we're given a table. It says use a table to find the equation of a linear function. Remember that equation, f of x equals mx plus b. To find m here, m is a slope. It is a rate of change. To find it, it is the change in y over the change in x. Well, if we figure out y, the change here is it's adding 4, or it's increasing by 4 each time. So now we need to figure out the change in y. Well, the change in y here, everything is increasing by 1, and positively. So if you look at it, it is the change in y over the change in x. The change in y is a positive 4. The change in x is 1. So my slope is 4 here. So if I rewrite this equation, I'll have f of x equals, slope is 4, x. In for b. Okay, a couple ways to find b. b, you can figure out, well, what is the y-intercept? The y-intercept is found when x equals 0. So your y-intercept is negative 2. Another way you could do this is simply take an ordered pair such as 1, 2, put 1 in for x and 2 in for y with your slope of 4 and solve for b. Otherwise, you can, if they have it, when x is 0, this is your y-intercept, so negative 2. So here would be our equation. F of x equals 4x minus 2. Secondly, you need to go ahead and write a verbal description, so basically explain what your equation is talking about. A verbal description such as this, it says, just state that it goes through the y-intercept at negative 2 here, and then that it goes up by 4 units. 4 is talking about your slope here. We don't know if is it $4 per hour, because remember it was 4 over 1, so 4 per something. That 1 could be, we don't know if it's hours, like I mentioned, $4 per hour. It increases 4 units per 1 something. Couple ways you could attack a problem too. It says, what is the rule for the linear function given the values in the table? You could simply take these values from the table and plug them in for x and y down here, and you should, whatever you put in for x, you should get for y. You could do the plug and play method, or you could simply kind of use the same concept as before. Figure out your change in y. So this is decreasing by 4, decreasing by 2, decreasing by 4. Over here, it looks like it is an increase by 2, an increase by 1, and an increase by 2. So once you have those changes, you could write it as a change in y over change in x. So this first one here is negative 4 over 2. Here we have negative 2 over 1. And last we have negative 4 over 2. That's your change in y over change in x. And you would notice that all of these would reduce to a negative 2. That would be your slope. If you look at your equations down here, D is the only possibility where you have a slope of negative 2. And also you could do your y-intercept. Well, when x is 0, y is 4. Look here, positive 4. So that would check out as well. Last example, which table of values can be found using the function f of x equals 3x minus 5 all over 2? First things first, I would rewrite this equation. This equation is basically stating f of x equals 3. Notice 2 here is getting divided into the 3, and it is getting divided into 5. So it is 3 divided by 2. That is next to x, and we have negative 5 divided by 2 as well. Once I rewrite the equation here, simply plug in values for x and get it out for y. So take your x value of 0, plug it into your equation up here. Here's where 0 would go, and you get 5 halves for y, because when you put in 3 halves times 0, it is 0. minus 5 halves, you get negative 5 halves. So it's a plug and play on this one. Put in negative 1 in for x, so 3 halves times negative 1 minus 5 halves, we come up with negative 1, and then last 3 times 3 halves minus 5 halves, we would come up with 2. So C is our only option here in example 3. This will conclude 8.221.